I step out of the storage unit into a strip of morning that looks washed and harmless, and wait for the hum to fade from my ears. It never fades. It settles under everything like power lines you only notice once and then cannot ignore. The asphalt smells like dust and old coolant. A gull lands on the roofline and watches me the way a camera watches a hallway. I lock the orange door behind me with the card I taped to my wrist before the fold. The ink on my hand has bled through the skin patch. 3 lines. April 19th, 2027. Armitage Clinic, 5th floor freezer. Those are the parts my head would not hold right after the jump, so I wrote them down in block letters. I fold the sleeve to hide the numbers and start walking. A dog barks once from somewhere left of the freeway, and then again 10 seconds later with the same rhythm. I count without meaning to. 10, 1, 10, 1. On the second pair, the traffic light ahead flickers once and comes back. A bus sighs at the curb and opens its doors to no one. A woman inside rubs the window with the flat of her palm and looks past me. This is not my city, even if I lived here before I left it. And the edges of every building look wrong, like the renderer skipped a step. I stop at a corner shop to buy a coffee and to be a person who buys coffee. The kid at the register has a birthmark that pulls one eye downward. He does not meet my glance. He says the total and holds the cup out as if he expects my hand to pass right through it. On the glass door behind him, I see a man standing at my shoulder. He wears the kind of suit you only see on marketing pages. His face is smooth, like someone forgot to stamp the die. No mouth, no lines, no color. Just the idea of a head. I turn. No one stands there. I look back, and it is still in the reflection, tilted toward me as if it heard me think its name. I do not say anything to the kid. I put coins on the counter that are still valid in this year and go. The hum climbs half a tone when sunlight hits the street. The clinic is 3 stops on the train and a walk past a park where early runners trace the same loops as before the fall. I know it because I studied those loops in the year 2092 for months, until the last generator at the continuity annex coughed a warning, and the lab manager told me to move faster. The origin chain was always a tangle. A spill here, an off-label trial there, a cooler that rode too warm for 2 hours on a truck, delayed by a minor crash no one wrote about. The point is not a single point. The point behaves like a braided river, but if I can cut into the braid early, the rest of the channels will dry into sand. That is the plan we drew on a wall with the last markers that had ink. A man in a ball cap holds the elevator for me and stares at the floor. He taps the rail with his knuckle in a pattern like a lullaby. 5th floor lights up. The doors close. He says nothing. I face the seam where metal meets metal and breathe shallow because the steel mirrors are too clean. In the faint double of my shoulder, I can see the suit again in the corner of the cab. Not in the air beside me, only in the metal. Its head tilts by an angle that suggests attention. I keep my eyes on the spill of the floor numbers and wait for the bell. The Armitage 5th floor smells of sanitizer and new carpet. A temp receptionist asks me to sign in. I sign with a name that belongs to a courier who misplaced his badge last week on a sidewalk I visited last night. It sits in my pocket, warmed by skin. She scans it, and the screen returns a green square with a low tone. I walk through to the lab wing and keep my pace steady. Clipboards, a printer that ticks every few seconds for no reason. A woman in a white coat pushes a cart of supplies and glances at my hands. I look like someone who carries things. I let my shoulders swing as if weight hangs from it. The freezer door is exactly where the briefing said. A coded lock, a keypad that won't accept numbers unless you wake it with your palm first. I lean on the handle as if tired, and feel for the sensor nub with the heel of my hand while my other fingers push the code. The latch clicks. I move inside and the air goes thin and hard, like stepping into a dry winter. Boxes stacked in grids, each with a label and a date and a printed warning about cell lines and not for human use. That line always sat wrong with me because it lies. What we do with what we invent never stays where we file it. On the middle shelf at the back, there is a cooler with the sticker I came for. A pilot run of a retroviral vector that would eventually take on a different code name and a different packaging line far from here. I kneel and unclip the lid and slide the rack toward the light. 2 vials, not enough to seed a world, but enough to matter if the world has the right shape. I take one, close the lid, and push the rack back exactly as it sat. The foam squeals at the seam. I hold the vial at my side inside the coat. One footstep outside pauses. The hum drops and returns like it ducked under a bridge. I exit and walk as if my mind is on the next delivery. I do not look at the glass because movement there pulls at a part of me I do not trust. The hall turns. A door opens. A woman steps out with a tablet in both hands. Brown hair pulled into a loose tie matched to a badge on a ribbon. Marina, research associate. She looks up, looks down, looks up again. Her eyes catch on the badge in my pocket like a hook on a sleeve. She says, "You are early," as if I belong here, and as if I am a problem she can manage in 5 minutes if she stays calm. I nod as if I know her. Traffic cleared. The words come from a part of me that practiced covers in an empty dormitory as wind pushed dirt against a door that would not close. Her gaze cuts to the place under the coat where the vial is warm only because my hand is there. She shifts her weight. I can see, in the way her mouth tightens, that she has run contingencies today, and none included a courier out of schedule standing in front of her freezer with hands that do not idle. A siren chirps once and stops. Not a fire alarm. A pressure sensor reset somewhere. The hum behind my ears sharpens to a thin wire. I say, "Do you have a loading dock number for the next run?" And I do not care about the answer. But I need her to think I care so she does not ask to see what sits in my sleeve. She flips the tablet toward herself and scrolls without touching it, a habit that says she hates marks on glass. I catch, briefly, our reflection together. The suit stands behind us in the tablet's surface, close enough that if it had breath I would feel it push the fabric on my back. "Doc C," she says, "but you knew that because you came through C. A test." She is not sure whether to call someone. I smile with only the teeth I know how to show and say, "I came in through A. C was blocked by a pallet jack." Her eyes flick. She makes a small decision. "Fine. You can wait in 5C, someone will be there." She keeps the tablet angled away from me and motions past, chin lifting toward a set of doors. I pass her and the tablet's screen ghosts my outline with a head behind it that does not belong to anyone alive. In the waiting room, I set the vial into the courier pouch, seal it, and slip the pouch behind a panel in the chair base. I have a screwdriver for this exact chair model because the annex had one, and I took it apart twice to make the muscle memory stick. I pull the panel flush and sit like someone who will wait all day because he gets paid by the hour. The clock on the wall jumps backward by a second and then forward by 2. The hum evens out. A TV with muted news shows a reporter outside a biotech conference where banners melt at the edges when the camera turns. If I walk out with the vial, I will make one path and close a dozen others. If I walk out without it, I will risk different doors. The annex models never matched the century we hoped to repair. They were always too clean, too discreet. This time feels like a shaft with cross beams, and if I pull on one, dust shakes loose 5 levels up. A nurse steps in to replace a dispenser and gives me a nod that says she has seen 100 couriers and none of them worried her. She checks the dispenser level and leaves. The room feels smaller when she is gone. I wait 7 minutes. The dog outside barks once with the same 2 count. The elevator dings and opens to reveal the man in the ball cap again. He walks in, looks at me, blinks once and looks at me again, as if he just finished a thought that returned him to this exact second. He swallows, points at me, then lowers his hand as if a string pulled it down. He says nothing and presses no buttons. The doors close without him moving. The hum spikes so high I cannot hear the air conditioner's semitone anymore. I stand and leave through the service hall, take the stairs 2 levels down, and step into a corridor that smells like wet cardboard. Dock C opens to the side lot behind a chain-link gate where delivery trucks idle. A guard sits in a glass booth and flips a magazine page. The glass throws my reflection back with the suit planted over my shoulder, like a shadow raised in a place that has no sun. I put my head down. The guard waves me through with 2 fingers. I keep walking until the hum eases, which happens only when I reach the edge of the lot and step into air that seems unowned. At the bus stop, a girl in scrubs leans on a post and types a message with the care of someone who edits before she sends. A trash truck rounds the corner. Its reflective stripe catches the morning and sends it into the shelter wall. The stripe flashes, and for an instant I see 5 copies of myself across it, like a sequence of movement. In each, the suit stands shifted by a small degree, not following, anticipating. I step to the side and the copies do not match. The hum lifts like a lid and I taste metal. The plan, as I wrote it on the last night with power, has 3 stages. 1. Remove the pilot vials so the local team logs an issue that slows the project and triggers a review. 2. Find the off-site clinic where a consultant plans to test vector stability under unethical conditions, and make that impossible without harming anyone. 3. Leave behind enough documentation signed by the right hands that the next chain of bosses will stamp the cancellations because no one wants trouble. Simple is the only way to survive a place that believes in forms. I ride the bus east and get off 2 stops early because men in community security jackets have started talking to riders at the clinic stop for a survey. I do not need faces recorded on a slow Wednesday. I cut through a lot where rain left a shape behind that refuses to dry. My shoes track dust in circles that resemble a mark I remember from a field notebook. I stop, scrape the sole on a curb, and keep going. A small market next to the clinic sells phone cards and energy drinks and lighters with sports logos. I buy gum because chewing keeps my mouth from forming questions when I should be quiet. Inside the clinic, a volunteer behind a folding table wears a badge that says Care Cohort and stamps hands with a star. It looks like a game until you notice the closed door at the end of the hall with a keypad that belongs to a much richer building. The program here pretends to be free checkups. The checkups include blood draws for those who qualify. The draw bags leave through a back door 3 times a day with a courier paid in rumors and vouchers. In one of those bags, next week, sits a set of samples that will convince a private lab to accelerate a program that should die here. That is the link I came to cut. I sign in as a donor using a name I practiced. The nurse who takes my form speaks softly and writes with her hand curled, left-handed, letters neat. Her pen runs out at the exact moment I remember it will, and she shakes it twice and writes again. She leads me to a room with a poster about nutrition taped crooked. She pulls gloves on, and the powder dusts the air and hangs like fog around the light. I watch the door because the mirror on the wall cuts a sliver of the hallway, and in that sliver the suit stands at the angle where the hallway turns. If I look at it, I feed it. If I do not look, it keeps its place. I let the nurse draw blood and hand me a bandage while my mind runs inventory. I need access to the draw bags without tripping a chain reaction I cannot control. There is a way that does not involve force. A fire alarm can empty a building, but I do not want to put sick people on a staircase if I can avoid it. A cold chain sensor reset can lock a back room for 30 minutes while staff fight with an error code. That will put the bags on a table without oversight. I thank the nurse and ask where the bathroom is, because asking for the bathroom at an odd time makes you harmless. She points to a door with a faded sign and goes to the next patient. In the bathroom, I lock the stall and pull the small tool roll from inside my belt. I crack the panel where the supply feeds run behind the sinks. The clinic upgraded the temperature loggers last month. The new model has a simple service button guarded by a sticker warning to press only during maintenance. I press it twice, pause, and press it again in the pattern our annex vendor used for factory resets. A tone sounds through the wall, long and thin. The hum in my ears wobbles as if it heard a note it wants to answer. I leave the bathroom, walk past the desk, and turn where the hallway splits toward doors marked staff. The volunteer has stood to greet a family and covers me from the camera without meaning to. The staff door clicks when I present the courier badge under a worn reader that drinks any card you give it if you lift it a little. Inside, stainless tables and labeled bins. A thermal printer spits a label and then another, and then stops with a jam. Two techs argue about barcodes and ignore the alarm that bleats in the cold room. On the center table sit 3 draw bags, condensation beaded on the plastic. I have less than a minute before one of the techs remembers to secure them. I slide the pouch with the freezer vial out of my coat and set it under the lip of the table leg magnet, a magnet I found last night with a cheap detector I bought 2 streets over. It holds like it was made for this. I lift the top bag, flip the tags, and spot the one that matches the name I do not say out loud, because even unspoken I do not want to give it weight. It belongs to a consultant whose samples get priority when the backdoor courier comes. I remove the tube harness and replace it with a set of blanks from my coat. Not empty blanks. Clean, preserved with saline and dyed to pass a quick look, and useless to a PCR machine. One tech says, if the logger stays red another minute, we call it and toss the lot. The other says, the lot includes Dr. Weber's favors, and I am not making that call. The first shrugs and reaches for the door. I slide the modified bag back and step to the sink with a towel, so I am washing hands when she enters. She glares at me like I belong, but not now. Courier, I say, and show the badge as if it matters. She waves me away with 2 fingers and moves to the cold room with a set of keys she would not hand me if I asked nicely for a year. The alarm stubborns. She curses under her breath in a way that does not break the platform rules in my head. I finish washing nothing from my hands and leave. In the hall, the volunteer is still busy with the family. I exit through a side door and walk until the clinic sound falls behind, and the traffic washes it flat. Then I cut down a side street where glass from an old repair sits in the gutter like salt. In each shard, the suit stands tiny and perfect, duplicated 100 times, each angled a degree off from the next. I do not step on them. At noon, I sit in a diner with dull forks and watch a brand of news that puts serious faces on trivial stories. A segment on biotech safety runs under a banner with a stock photo of a pipette. The reporter talks about oversight panels and community outreach. and never mentions the part where consultants push trials through small rooms for free. On the stainless coffee pot, I see the suit again, closer than it has any right to be. The waitress notices me watching the pot and turns it so the handle points away. She laughs without sound and says I look like I need sleep. She is not wrong. I call the number I wrote on my arm and let it ring twice. A man answers with a greeting that identifies his company and his function and says he can send a driver if I need. His accent is local. He speaks with the careful rhythm of someone who practiced this call 100 times in a mirror. I tell him there is a problem with a shipment that touches his name. I do not accuse. I do not reveal. I say a regulator is visiting tomorrow at 9 for a surprise walkthrough. I drop the name of a real regulator who is known to do surprise walkthroughs. The man goes quiet the length of a breath, and then says he will postpone his pickup to avoid confusion. He asks for my full name. I hang up before the question finishes and remove the SIM. The hum eases once the call ends. The suit on the pot turns its head toward the window and then back as if offended by my interruption. I finish the food because leaving it would mark me, pay, and step into afternoon that feels slightly sunburned even under clouds. I walk to the storage unit again because the panel under the chair holds the freezer vial, and I cannot leave it where a cleaning crew might discover more than dust. The gull on the roofline has been replaced by another gull that stands in the exact same place in the exact same posture. It blinks at the same slow speed. Inside the unit, I close the door, and the hum drops in the smell of oil and corrugated metal. I unscrew the chair panel, take the vial, and tuck it into the foam pocket inside the courier pouch. The pouch fits into the false bottom of a suitcase that also holds cash, a thin laptop with a dead battery, and a folded letter I wrote to myself before the fold, in case I arrived unstitched. I unfold it and read the first line. Do not stare at mirrors. I fold it back up. I know why now. At dusk, I return to the clinic street because the courier who handles the afternoon bags tends to be lazy in a way I can use. He backs up with the truck door open, leaves his clipboard on the bumper, and checks his phone while the texts load. If the bags contain the blanks I inserted, he will leave with them, and by the time anyone runs a test that reveals what I did, the regulator rumor will have made every cautious manager approve a pause. A pause saves months. Months turn braids to dust. I watch from the mouth of an alley that frames the clinic door. The dog down the street barks once, 10 seconds, once again. The security light buzzes. The courier arrives late and does the lazy dance exactly as I remember. The tech hands him the crate. He does not check the labels. He puts the crate in the truck and signs his own clipboard like he hates pens. He drives away, texting at the first red light until someone honks. The honk repeats the same 2 beats as the dog. I do not like that. I exhale and feel none of it leave me. The clinic door closes. The hallway lights step down to half power. I turn to go and stop because in the window of the shop across the street, the suit stands with his face turned full toward me. There is still no face. The lack of features pulls at me like a drop-off near a riverbank. He raises a hand in the reflection. In the glass behind me on the clinic door, I see my own hand begin to rise to match without my permission. I put it down by force. The hum swells. The street goes quiet in the wrong way. Sound drains as if the night is a bowl and someone tipped it. My shadow on the wall moves even though I do not. It twists toward the shop window where the suit stands. I step backward into the alley and look for surfaces I can make less reflective. A torn poster on brick. A dumpster side with rust. A puddle I can cross without looking down. The trick is not to give it planes to stand on. That is what the old notes implied, buried under jokes about ghosts and reflections, because the annex kids hated saying what they feared in plain words. The alley turns into a run of delivery doors. A man in a hoodie smokes on a step and watches me pass with a slow smile, the kind a person wears when he sees someone else arguing with empty air. I touch the chain on my neck where the travel charm once hung. I gave it to a boy who believed it would fix his dreams, and after he slept better, I did not ask for it back. The hum shifts in a way that makes the metal rail under my hand vibrate. I move away from it, to the soft dark where garbage bags sit and do not shine. I need a room without glass. Cold storage at the clinic would work, but going back inside now would be foolish. The maintenance tunnel that runs under this block would be better. There is an access door behind the old pharmacy, and the lock has snapped twice in 5 years, which means the hinge will give if you lean on it in the sweet spot. I find the door by memory and by the paint patch that never matched. I shoulder it where the screws meet the frame. The metal groans and pops, and I am inside. The hum drops as if muffled by soil. The tunnel smells like dust and fatigue. Lights on a timer click to life in 10-foot sections, with a lag that leaves me guessing where the line ends. Here, the suit has fewer places to stand. The conduit boxes are dull. The puddles are dry. I walk until the tunnel dips and curves, and the clinic manholes fork above. I sit on a crate and set the courier pouch in front of me. My hands do not want to open it. I open it anyway. The vial catches the low light and makes it look taller than it is. I have destroyed samples before. It never felt like a victory. It felt like breaking a pencil so a test could not be graded. But this one sits at the mouth of enough rivers that even a temporary blockage changes a landscape. I take the small case of neutralizer from the pocket inside the pouch. I crack the ampule, drip the clear liquid around the vial cap, and hear the faintest hiss. I wait the count that keeps me honest. Then I twist the cap, introduce the rest of the neutralizer, and watch the vector proteins thin to a mean nothing. The vial goes harmless for now. Not for always. For now is all I can afford. Above me, footsteps cross a manhole cover in a cadence I recognize. The ball cap man. He pauses and then keeps going. The hum outside the tunnel rises and falls with the rhythm of his walk. In the curve of a conduit brace, I see a faint image that should not be there. The suit stands beyond my shoulder, tilted, as if the world leans and it keeps whatever passes for balance by force. I turn the brace with my wrist until it shows only brick. The image dies in the metal like a candle snuffed. Enough, I say to the room, because talking to myself is better than letting the other voice speak first. I list what I have done. I removed the pilot vials from the lab by turning one into a ghost that will not pass quality control under bright light. I replaced priority samples at the clinic with blanks that will waste a week. I planted a rumor that will make a mid-level manager cancel a pickup out of self-preservation. Each step cuts a thread. A braid becomes strands. Strands do not cross the floodplain. The hum dims. The suit does not appear on the dull surfaces. My hands settle from the work and start to shake for the first time today. Not the kind of shake anyone sees. The kind that makes you set objects down more carefully than necessary. I put the neutralized vial back in the pouch and seal it. I lean my head back against the wall and look at concrete. Concrete has no face. When I leave the tunnel, the night has reassembled into something ordinary. The air tastes like rain that may or may not happen. The clinic across the street closes one set of blinds and leaves another open, because someone forgot. A group from a nearby church hands out brown bags with water and granola and a pamphlet that says "Call if you need a ride." The dog down the block barks one time only, as if it also finished a job and can rest. I do not trust it, but I accept it. At the storage unit, I make 2 calls from 2 payphones that still have lines. One to a university review board, where a message that includes the right string of words will trigger a compliance check in 3 days. One to a local reporter who covers science without pretending to be impressed by free coffee. I give her enough that she will request records, not enough that she will run something careless. I tell her to look at off-site clinics and trace consultant names with matching initials. She asks for mine. I tell her I fix things that want to break and hang up. The night deepens. The hum plays lower, like a transformer cooling. I sit on the suitcase and stare at the corrugated wall, where the numbers 112 hint through old paint. In the ripple, I do not see the suit. That should make me relieved. It does not, because the pattern is too neat. The hum disappears exactly when I complete the set. The dog barks exactly when it should stop. Neatness in a world like this is a warning. The folds do not like neat. I step outside for air. The roadway lies empty except for a street sweeper that crawls past at the speed of a slow decision. In its metal flank, I catch a reflection I do not want and cannot ignore. The suit is there again, centered, closer than ever. No features still, but a pressure without touch comes with it, as if all the surfaces of the world have tilted toward this shape. It lifts its hand. I do not lift mine. The sweeper turns the corner, and the image stretches, distorts, snaps. The humming returns heavy. The light above the unit door flickers twice with the same rhythm as the dog, as the honk, as the elevator bell. 2 beats, gap, 2 beats. The number carves into me not with pain, but with insistence. It is a clock that does not read like a clock. The fold had harmonics, the engineers said. It had modes. If I struck the world with a different timing, something else came through with me that prefers planes and repetitions. Maybe it fed on changes made to fixed lines. Maybe it policed them. Maybe it copied them. I do not know. I only know that when I stop moving, it draws nearer. So I keep moving. I walk the blocks that circle the clinic and the lab and the transit station, where the ball cap man practices his swallow, and the shop where the cashier hands cups without letting fingers touch. I leave small anchors, a note slipped under a door to a floor manager that implies eyes are watching, a complaint logged with a delivery vendor that will force a retrain, a question emailed from a borrowed account to a skeptical city council member who always asks for proof and always finds it. None of it heroic. All of it human, which matters because the outbreak we lived through in 2092 ate the quiet, boring machines that kept us honest. At the edge of dawn, the sky grays and the gull on the roofline returns to his place like a clerk at opening time. The hum softens into the kind of sound that hides in refrigerators and distant highways. My phone, the last cheap one, buzzes with a reply that says the review board scheduled a walkthrough, and would I be willing to speak on background. I turn it off and drop it into a bin behind the bus station. The dog does not bark. The light across the way holds steady. I go back to the storage unit and pack the suitcase. Not because I am done, because staying would turn the circle into a coil, and a coil is something that tightens. The world will push back. Maybe the clinic's consultant will shift his trial 2 neighborhoods away. Maybe the lab will change suppliers. Maybe the regulator will cancel a visit because an office calendar slipped a week. But I have cut enough today that the river of intent that would have become our flood cannot find its old channel without work. Work means time. Time means lives that learn not to make the same bargains. Before I close the case, I take out the folded letter and read the second line, even though I promised myself never to move beyond the first. If the hum changes, stop using mirrors. I smile in a way that no one can see and tuck it back. I pull a roll of black tape from the pouch and run a strip over the small mirror on the inside of the unit door. It makes the door look wounded. I put another strip over the watch face I have not worn since I arrived. The watch ticks anyway. I step out and lock the unit. The key turns at a pressure that feels like a choice. The morning smells like wet dust and something sweet from the bakery 2 blocks over. For the first time since sunrise yesterday, the hum hesitates. It does not stop. It breathes. If a sound can breathe, this one does. I walk toward the bus because walking toward something beats standing still in front of a storage unit, while a suit with no face learns how close it can stand. At the corner, I catch my reflection in a storefront and prepare to ignore it. I prepare to look through it as if it is only light arranged on glass. But there is nothing in it. No suit, no outline, not even me. It is an empty sheet of morning. For a full breath, I see the world without myself. The effect is not dramatic. It is exact. The bus sighs to a stop beside me and opens its doors to no one and then to me. The driver nods. I nod back like a person who will ride this line until the end, get off and start again. I sit, and the city moves past in frames that do not repeat. A man runs to catch up to someone he knows. A woman laughs at her phone and puts it away to watch the light because the light is good. A boy presses his forehead to the window and draws a line in the fog with one finger. And the line looks like a river that used to run where a road runs now. The hum rides with us like a chorus at the edge of hearing. I let it ride. I plan the next small cut. There will be more. The braid has other channels. Off-site trials I do not know yet. Donations that carry names that money shields. A hospital freezer that needs to fail on a day that looks routine. I do not need to be a hero to do this. A hero would give speeches. A hero would make a scene. I will leave the right forms in the right inboxes at the right hour, and let ordinary caution do the work history forgets. I will walk past mirrors like they never existed. I will listen for a dog that barks at the wrong time and choose a different street. The bus passes the park. Runners trace loops that will seem trivial to anyone who never mapped infection vectors. The gull on the roof opens its wings and closes them as if it never learned to fly but wants to look like it could. The driver checks his mirror twice and adjusts it, even though it does not need adjusting. I look out the side and count the seconds between light changes until counting becomes too neat, and I stop. The hum dips and rises. There is a world here, flawed and stubborn, that does not yet know what we saw. That ignorance is a kind of grace if I handle it right. At the last stop I stand, step down, and become one more piece of quiet machinery. I carry no banner. I carry a pouch that smells like neutralizer and tape that erases reflections, and a letter from a person I do not recognize who knew me better than I know myself right now. The suit might follow. It might not. It can watch. I will give it nothing flat to stand on. I will choose brick, dirt, broken paint, fogged glass, and rooms with the lights dimmed just enough to keep a face from forming on a wall. I will use the time I bought, and I will spend it carefully.